from Gurvasu, Ludhiana. I would request Dr. Pankaj Hase sir to please introduce our next speaker. So Dr. Hase, please.
Good evening, everybody. So this is the second lecture. Today we are going to start, and Dr. Neetu Saini, Associate Professor, Department of Veterinary Clinical Medicine, Gadwasu, Ludhiana, is going to present on fluid and electrolyte therapy in canine disease management. Friends, fluid therapy is the most important therapeutic measure used critically ill canine patients, and fluid therapy is the clinical therapy used to replace the dehydration deficits, maintain normal hydration, replace essential electrolytes. It is one of the important aspects for the routine clinical examination. So, guys, today we have with us Dr. Neetu Saini from Gadwas, Ludhiana. At present, she is working as an associate professor in the Department of Veterinary Clinical Medicine at Ludhiana. She did her UG, PG, and PhD from Ludhiana only. Her field specialization is veterinary cardiology, but fluid therapy is also her area of interest. She published more than 40 research articles of national and international repute. She guided three PG students and guiding two students at present. She is the recipient of Young Scientist Award for outstanding contribution in the research in the veterinary medicine by the Indian Society for the Veterinary Medicine. She has also bagged the Young Scientist Award for the conference on Pet Expo and Indian Vetopia in 2017. She is recipient of the Merit Scholarship not only in MSc but also throughout the BVS and ES degree. So I request today's speaker, Dr. Neetu Saini, to present her expert lecture on fluid and electrolyte therapy in canine disease management. And welcome to this online platform on the new horizons of canine disease diagnostic and therapeutic. Please welcome Dr. Neetu, madam, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hase. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. You are audible.
Okay. So I'm sharing the screen. Topic of presentation is fluid and electrolyte therapy in canine disease management. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, madam.
Good evening, everyone.
So,
so today we are going to discuss the various principles of fluid therapy in canine disease management in different conditions. What about the cases, or what about the patients which are losing the fluid in the form of vomiting? Were losing fluid in the form of vomiting, diarrhea, polyuria, and what are the fluid deficits, and how to calculate the various fluid requirements of that patient, and what are the common fluids which are available, and at what time which fluid should be given, what are the normal dose rates for the fluids, and what are the various complications. These questions will be answered in today's presentation. Regarding the indications of fluid therapy, it is the cornerstone of therapeutic care in different disease conditions. Fluid therapy is used for the treatment of hypotension, especially whenever there is low blood pressure, maybe because of shock or because of various hemorrhagic conditions in the body. It is used as a treatment of dehydration in the patients which are losing fluid in the form of vomiting, diarrhea, polyuria, etc. For the management of electrolyte and acid-base balances in the body. It is also used as a maintenance fluid for the hydration. And no doubt the fluid therapy is one of the route for the IV medications for the various drugs that can be given through fluid therapy. And it is used for the treatment of toxins as well as for the diuresis in the renal failure conditions. But for all this, we have to plan for the fluid therapy, and the monitoring has to be done regularly. we talk about the percentage of body water around in average body weight dog, around 60% of total body is the total body water is the 60% of the body weight. And if the animal is not eating and drinking properly, but there is loss of the fluid in the vomiting, in diarrhea and polyuria, losses from the body, they are more as compared to the intake. So fluid deficits, they are not compensated, that leads to dehydration. As I have already told, 60% of the total body weight is the water, and out of the 60%, 2/3 is present in the intracellular fluid spaces, that is inside the cells, indicated by intracellular space, and 1/3 is present in the extracellular fluid, which further divided into two parts, that is interstitial fluid and intravascular fluid. Interstitial fluid, it comprises around 3/4, that is 75%, and intravascular fluid, it comprises around 1/4, which is present in the vascular space, that is the plasma, and some amount of fluid is present in the pleural as well as peritoneal cavity, which comes in the other fluids. We talk about the water intake and the losses from the body. What are the various sources of water intake? It can be in the form of drinking, it can be in the form of in food which we ingest, various metabolic processes that produce water, and the water is lost from the body in the form of urine, fecal water, from the lungs in the form of respiration or panting, especially in the dogs. Sweating is there only in the horses, panting is important for dogs. But the most important thing is two types of losses are there, whether we should know what are the sensible versus insensible losses. Sensible losses which can be made, for example, urine output. Insensible losses which cannot be made, for example, the respiratory losses.
Excuse me, madam.
Pardon?
Excuse me, madam.
Yes,
I think your screen is not visible to participant. You have to reshare the screen, I think.
Okay.
Yes.
Screen share करिए दोबारा.
तीन चार मैसेजेस आते ना.
Stop share. Share screen. Is it visible now?
Yes, visible now. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So the insensible losses which cannot be made, for example, loss of the fluid in the form of respiration in the panting in dogs. Out of the various losses in the body, which can be in the form of vomiting, diarrhea, polyuria, blood loss because of severe hemorrhages, blood loss in the various body cavities in the form of ascites or pleural or pericardial effusions. For all these conditions, these fluid deficits has to maintain the fluid therapy. By which form the fluid is lost from the body, that is the other thing, but in which sequence the fluid is lost from the various spaces in the body, that is very important. Whenever the fluid is lost from the body, first it is lost from the intravascular space, that is from the plasma, followed by the interstitial space, secondarily is from the interstitial space, and lastly from the intracellular fluid. So this is the protective mechanism of the body to maintain the fluid in the intracellular fluid. At the last, it is to be lost. And whenever there is a fluid is lost from the intravascular space, that leads to decreased tissue perfusion with the resultant hypoxia. So whenever the fluid is lost from the extravascular space, maybe interstitial, intracellular, that leads to dehydration. There are various terms which are used to for the, you can say, fluid volume can be explained by the various terms. First, hypovolemia. Hypovolemia means decrease in the circulatory blood volume. Circulatory means which is the vascular volume which is present in the blood, that is the plasma volume. Dehydration is the whole body fluid loss. It's from the extravascular space, and it can be checked by the physical examination or from the laboratory examination. Hypervolemia is the overload of intravascular space. That is the increase in the circulatory fluid volume that is causing fluid overload that may be present in various cardiac conditions when heart is not able to cope up with the normal body fluids. From the physical examination and laboratory examination, we can have an idea about changes in the fluid content of the body. So whenever, by which way the fluids are lost from the body, whether it is in the form of vomiting, diarrhea, or renal failure, the blood examination of various electrolytes, they tell us some idea of the acid-base imbalances in the body. So the most important ions which are lost are sodium, potassium, chloride, and no doubt bicarbonates. Very important. While evaluating the patient which needs the fluid, the most important thing is the evaluation of the history of the patient. How long the animal is having problem, that's the duration, and what type of losses the animal is having, whether it is a gastric losses or it is in the form of diarrhea. What is the chief complaint given by the owner? Then physical examination findings, that is the checking of the skin turgor, checking of the mucous membrane, checking of capillary refill time, and other things which I'll explain later. And these things, history, chief complaint, physical examination, they give us some idea to reach about various laboratory tests which are required, and also helps us to plan for the fluid therapy. If we check the hydration status of the patient, an animal showing signs of shock or severe hemorrhages, that leads to hypovolemia. That is the sudden drop of blood pressure in such patients, which is manifested in the form of tachycardia, delayed capillary fill time, pale mucous membrane, dull mentation, weak or even absent pulses. This is because whenever there is hypovolemia, the oxygen level in the blood that is reduced, so leading to the organ failure, ultimately brain damage, coma, and even death. Assessment of dehydration, or you can say the signs of dehydration in the patient, it takes some time. It is not a you can say sudden thing to develop. It takes time, and even the treatment of the dehydration, it takes long time with the fluid therapy. The various parameters, physical parameters, they are used to check for the percentage dehydration in the patient. Actually, it is a subjective measure. To measure the percentage dehydration, and various physical examination parameters, for example, what is the skin elasticity, the capillary fill time, moistness of mucous membranes, then eye examination, then heart rate and pulses, and the pulse rate. These give us some idea about the percentage dehydration in a patient. For example, less than 5% dehydration is not detectable in a patient. As the percentage of dehydration is increased, there will be increase in there will be loss of skin elasticity. For example, in 6 to 8%, there is little delay in the skin to return normal when we do a skin tanning test. And there is increased CRT and mucous membranes that dry. But once the dehydration reaches to 10 to 12%, the skin remains tanted, continued increase in capillary fill time, eyes are sunken in the orbits, there will be tachycardia and weak pulses. And even more than that, the animal will show signs of shock with loss of pulses. Laboratory findings which are important to check for the dehydration is we must check the total protein and packed cell volume. Little amount of blood is required, and usually in patients with dehydration, there is increase in the packed cell volume and showing hemoconcentration and increase in total plasma protein. No doubt, the urine specific gravity is also going to increase in the patients with dehydration, but in patients with the primary renal kidney conditions are there, or renal failure is there, then in fluid deficit conditions, urine specific gravity is going to reduce. Coming to the important IV fluids which are available or which are used, these are the various categories of fluids. 4 basic categories of fluids currently available for intravenous use in small animal patients are crystalloids, colloids, electrolyte-free water, that is dextrose in water. It is free of any solutes and blood components. We will be concentrating more on crystalloids and colloids. Crystalloid fluids, they are the backbone of fluid therapy, and basically they are the replacement solutions, maintenance solutions, and hypertonic solutions. Isotonic or replacement solutions. Why they are called isotonic? Because the sodium concentration in the replacement solutions are almost same as present in the plasma. That is 140 millimoles per liter. That's why they are called as isotonic solutions. They are indicated for rapid replacement of intravascular volume and electrolytes in conditions like shock or hemorrhages or severe volume loss due to vomiting, diarrhea, or excessive diuresis. Whenever displacement crystallite fluids, they are given only 20% that remains in the intravascular space for after 1 hour, 80% goes into the interstitial space. Therefore, large volumes of replacement crystalloids must be administered to replace the intravascular volume. Commonly available replacement solutions are normal saline, that is 0.9% sodium chloride, and Ringer's lactate solution. Coming to the maintenance fluids. Maintenance fluids, they are composed of dissolved solutes with same solute concentration as found in the extracellular fluid. The sodium concentration in the maintenance fluids around is equal to the total body water sodium concentration, that is 70 millimoles per liter. So the concentration is lower than the plasma concentration of sodium. That's why they are also called as hypertonic solutions. Once they are administered by IV route, only 10% of the infused volume remains within the vascular space after 1 hour of infusion. So these are not these fluids, they're not used as volume expanders. These are even not used for the resuscitation because they are not going to remain in the vascular space for longer period. Commercially available maintenance fluid solutions are half strength saline, that's 0.45% sodium chloride, half strength saline plus 2.5% dextrose, half strength Ringer's lactate solution plus 2.5% dextrose. Maintenance solutions are very important whenever we want to supplement potassium. So potassium supplementation is mostly done in the maintenance solutions. And maintenance solution, one thing more I want to say, the maintenance solutions, they are whenever we want to give, they are only to compensate for the normal physiological losses. For example, the urine output loss. Hypertonic saline, that is the sodium concentration is very high in this. It is used to increase the intravascular volume rapidly because of high sodium content of the fluid is available in the various concentrations. And it is indicated whenever the sodium level, plasma sodium levels are below 115 milliequivalents per liter. Most commonly, hypertonic solution, what they occur whenever they are given, they are going to increase the intravascular sodium concentration. As a result, there will be fluid shift from the interstitial spaces and to increase to compensate for the increased sodium concentration in the plasma. Most commonly, hypertonic saline is used whenever there is severe hypovolemia and we need low volume resuscitation. That is in the conditions like cerebral trauma, when large amount of fluid cannot be given, or when large volume of crystalloids cannot be infused faster to produce a rapid effect, for example, in gastric dilatation volvulus. So such fluids, they're the best for these conditions. Hypertonic saline is given at the dose rate of 4 to 7 ml per kg body weight at 1 ml per kg per minute, and this solution at this rate produces the hemodynamic effect similar to the infusion of 60 to 90 ml per kg of replacement crystallite solution. 5% dextrose in water, it is also called as this is a sugar water, we can say. This is electrolyte free sugar water, dextrose 5%. It is not commonly used in veterinary medicine because once it is infused, the dextrose is immediately metabolized. And this fluid contains no active solutes, therefore it readily redistributes throughout the body. The most common indications for giving this is severe hypernatremic conditions, and sodium is more than 160 milliequivalents per liter, and it can be given in the hypoglycemic conditions. It is given in combination with the replacement fluids to create maintenance composition fluids. Most common combination which is used is G5, that is the dextrose 5 plus half strength saline and the potassium chloride. So this is, as I have already told, the G5 solutions, they are used as a maintenance fluids. They are very good for the administration of potassium. This table indicates the solute concentration in the various types of crystalloid fluids which are commonly used, starting with the normal plasma. Normal plasma contains sodium level around 140 milliequivalents per liter, and it contains chloride, potassium, calcium, glucose 0.85 gram per liter, and anionic buffer, that is the bicarbonate at concentration 24 milliequivalents per liter. So this makes the normal plasma with osmolarity 290 milliosmoles per liter. Now coming to the replacement fluid, 0.9% saline, it is also called as normal saline, or it is also called as NS. The common name is NS. It contains only sodium and chloride at concentration 154 milliequivalent sodium, 154 chloride. No other solute is present. No potassium, calcium, no buffer is present. And osmolarity is 308. Almost it is equivalent to the normal plasma. It is close, and it is also considered as isotonic fluid, and it is the best fluid for resuscitation whenever there is excess of the fluid loss is there and intravascular volume resuscitation is required, whether it is a GIT loss, hemorrhages are there, shock is there. This is the best fluid to be given. 0.4% saline is also called as half strength normal saline. It contains sodium and chloride at half of the concentration as present in the 0.9% saline. Other electrolytes, they are absent with no glucose, no potassium, no buffer, and osmolarity is 154 milliosmoles per liter. It is a hypotonic solution. It is not given alone. It is given as a combination as a maintenance fluid, and this fluid is usually given along with the dextrose 5 and potassium chloride. And usually these maintenance fluids, they are used to cope up for the physiological losses. Coming to the hypertonic fluid, 3% saline. It is a hypertonic fluid with high concentration of sodium and chloride, but absence of all other electrolytes with no buffer. Osmolarity is very high, and it is used as hypertonic fluid. The indication is that it is used in the conditions of severe hyponatremia and in the conditions in which low volume resuscitation is required. So this is also resuscitation fluid where low volume is required. For example, cerebral trauma, I have already explained. Next is the combination, that is dextrose 5%, half strength saline plus 20 milliequivalents of potassium. This is a very good combination as a maintenance fluid. It contains sodium 77 milliequivalents per liter, potassium as in the combinations 20 milliequivalents per liter. It contains 50 grams of glucose in 1 liter of solution with osmolarity 446. If we look at the osmolarity, it seems that as if it is a hypertonic solution. But since dextrose or glucose that's metabolized very quickly once it enters into the intravascular space, so we consider it as hypertonic solution, and it is used for very good for the maintenance fluid and very good for the administration of potassium. Next is the electrolyte free sugar water, that is D5 dextrose. It is having no solutes, no sodium, chloride, potassium, calcium. Only it contains 50 grams of glucose in 1 liter of the fluid, and osmolarity is 252. Since it is osmolarity is lesser than plasma, it is also hypertonic. And indications, it is never given alone. It is given in combination, and it can be given in the conditions like hypernatremia and hypoglycemia. Coming to the last one, lactated Ringer solution. It is also called as Hartmann solution at some places. It contains sodium, chloride, potassium, calcium, and an anionic buffered lactates at the concentration of 28 milliequivalents per liter, making the osmolarity 273, which is close to the normal plasma. So it is a very good isotonic fluid, having the electrolyte concentrations very close to the normal plasma. This lactate, they are metabolizable to the bicarbonate ions. So Ringer's lactate is a very good resuscitation fluid used in the various conditions can be used. If there are hypovolemic patients, when the potassium level goes below 2.5 milliequivalents per liter, it's life-threatening, and potassium usually it is administered in to the following scale which I have given. It is used. It is added to 250 ml of the saline. For example, if the potassium level is less than 2 milliequivalents per liter, we have to add 20 milliequivalents of potassium to 250 ml of saline. If we are using 1 liter bottle, then we have to add 80 milliequivalents of potassium, and it is available in the concentration of 2 milliequivalents per ml. It means 10 ml of potassium chloride has to be added to the 250 ml normal saline solution. Coming to colloids. Colloids, they are the high molecular weight compounds which exert their effect by expanding the intravascular volume. And the most important thing is they stay in the intravascular space for a longer period of time. Volume expansion due to colloids is determined by its molecular weight and its concentration. They're typically used for resuscitation in severe hypovolemia. Whenever the rapid intravascular volume displacement is required, for example, surgical blood loss, cerebral trauma, it is a very good solutions to be instituted. To improve the colloidal osmotic pressure, especially in the patients in which there is hypovolemic hypoalbuminemia. In those patients, the colloidal osmotic pressure will be less with a low serum albumin concentration from protein loss due to renal or gastroenteric diseases, or due to leakage of protein due to various inflammatory conditions like pancreatitis and septicemia. In such conditions, to improve the osmotic pressure, the colloids are best to be given. The various categories of colloids. Natural colloids, they are available as fresh human albumin. It's available in two concentration, 4 to 5%, and 20 to 25% albumin. This difference in the concentration is the difference in the oncotic pressure. Second is fresh frozen plasma. That is, this is a fresh protein source that is given in the various coagulopathic conditions. It is a good. Synthetic colloids, we talk about, actually these are the macromolecules. They are available, dextrans 40, they are available, and hydroxyethyl starch 6% they are available. But the difference between two is the how much time they'll remain over the intravascular space. Both are given at the dose rate of 10 to 40 ml per kg per day. But if we talk about, these are the different colloids, 4 to 5% women, again 20 to 25% women, dextrone, hydroxyethyl starch. If you see the last column, duration of volume expansion, if we give a women, the volume expansion is for 12 to 24 hours, but dextrone is very short-lived. It is only for 1 to 2 hours volume expansion is there. Synthetic colloids, hydroxyethyl starch, the volume expansion is up to 36 hours. What are the various routes for administration of the fluid? The common routes of fluid administration in the dogs are intravenous, subcutaneous, enteral, intraosseous, and intraperitoneal. But for the patients with hypovolemia, intravenous route is always preferred. Subcutaneous route is not appropriate for hypovolemic patients, and it can be used in the patients with mild dehydration. And around 10 to 12 ml of the subcutaneous fluid can be given at one spot using subcutaneous route. Dextrose and potassium should never be given by subcut route. They are always given by the intravenous route. This is always preferred for administration of potassium and dextrose. The fluids can be given as a bolus or as concentrate infusions. The distillate fluids are mostly administered along with the colloids. Now, in a dehydrated patient, the quantity of the fluid bolus is based upon the degree of dehydration. So fluid deficit, or we can say dehydration deficit, is equal to body weight in kgs, the percentage of or degree of dehydration. This degree of dehydration is a very subjective measure. This we have to calculate from the physical examination parameters, the scale which I have already explained. And if multiplied by 1000, then we'll get the ml of the fluid required. Otherwise, we'll get the liter of the fluid required to be given per day. 1/2 of the dehydration deficit fluid should be administered as a bolus. The rest should be replaced as a constant rate infusion over 12 to 24 hours. The volume, and this is the rate of administration of the fluid. Actually, various questions are there, whether the patient is hypovolemic, there is hypovolemic shock is there, or patient is showing signs of dehydration. What are the patient's daily physiological requirements, and how much are the ongoing losses? 3 major components of fluid administration are resuscitation, replacement fluids, maintenance fluids. During fluid resuscitation, intravenous fluid is administered to restore the intravascular volume. Initially, for hypovolemia, the isotonic crystalloids should be administered at the shock rate of 20 ml per kg to 90 ml per kg body weight in dogs over 15 minutes. So dose rate 20 to 90 ml, it again depends upon the percentage of dehydration. However, For hypoproteinemic, hypovolemic patients, to improve for the synthetic colloids has to be given for improving the oncotic pressure. They again can be given at the dosage of 5 ml per kg to 20 ml per kg body weight over 15 to 20 minutes. As I have already told you this, the shock rate is around, we have to choose 20 to 19 between dosage we have to choose for hypovolemia. That all depends on the dehydration status. For mild dehydration, less than 5%, we can use up to 15 to 30 ml per kg per hour. For moderate dehydration, we can use 50 ml per kg per hour. For shock and life-threatening conditions, when it's severe dehydration, we can use up to 90 ml per kg per hour. And how to monitor for the fluid therapy? We have to, there are various parameters. These are the body weight. This is body weight is a very, you can say, non-invasive method for estimation. We have to determine whether there is body weight gain or loss is there day-to-day basis whenever fluid therapy instituted, and the same time of the day with the same scale should be used for this. Mucous membrane color or a moistness of mucous membrane is very important. If it has become from dry, it means, or tacky mucous membrane, it means animal is really dehydrated. If it has turned or it has regained the moisture, it means the effective fluid therapy is there. Capillary refill time, improvement in the capillary refill time is also a sign of good perfusion. Then skin turgor, which is a very good and important status of hydration status of the patient. Means if the patient is improving the skin turgor, if the elasticity of the skin that is improving, means skin tanning test is the very important test to check for the skin turgor, but this shouldn't be used in the geriatric patients, and in the very weak patient is not a good indicator. Then pulse rate and quality, and lung auscultation is very important to check for the edema to develop, because if sometimes fluid overload that leads to pulmonary edema, we should auscultate for the gutters. Serial evaluation of the fluid input and urine output provides useful information about how much fluid has to be administered. Along with this, various laboratory tests, which includes renal function test, blood urine nitrogen, and creatinine, usually they are going to increase the patients with dehydration, and once fluid therapy is instituted, they are going to be improved. And urine specific gravity, especially in cases of prerenal azotemia, so dehydration is there, urine specific gravity is going to increase. And blood gas analysis, and this is and measurement of serum lactate concentration give us idea about the tissue perfusion. Metabolic acidosis improvement of this, and if the serum lactate levels also coming towards normal, it means the tissue perfusion is good now. What are the consequences of volume overload? And like restlessness, coughing in the animal, or subcut edema will develop if fluid overload is there. Exophthalmos, vomiting can be there. Serious nasal discharge may be because of pulmonary edema, increased urine output. The various disease conditions, what are the various fluid therapy plans we'll be discussing now. Fluid therapy in vomiting and diarrhea. If we talk about the gastroenteritis, there is gastrointestinal conditions. The most important is canine parvovirus, or it can be occurs, this vomiting diarrhea can occur secondary to various systemic disease like renal failure and peritonitis. Why this fluid loss from the vomiting and diarrhea is important? Because GIT loss is very important, because most of the fluid that is secreted and absorbed from the gastrointestinal wall. So dehydration that results from losses, that is either isotonic or hypertonic fluid loss. Hypovolemic shock is the life-threatening consequences of vomiting and diarrhea. It means the compensatory mechanism and they are not working properly. Since the gastric contents, they contains high level of sodium and chloride, so the loss of these two ions is going to produce hyponatremia and hypochloremia. They occurs as a result of loss from the gastric juices, and from the intestines due to diarrhea there will be loss of bicarbonate ions. The fluids of choice for vomiting and diarrhea are 0.9% sodium chloride, lactated ginger solution, and normal sol R. Normal sol R is almost this is similar concentration as of sodium chloride. The dose rate in dogs with mild hypoperfusion can be 20 to 30 ml per kg body weight is used, but for severe hypoperfusion, 70 to 90 ml per kg. Another important thing is addition of colloids, because in the GIT loss, once diarrhea is there, there is loss of protein. So to maintain the oncotic pressure, we need to add colloids. So we are gastroenteritis cases. Parameters or physical parameters which are used which indicates improvement in the perfusion status includes correction of tachycardia, there'll be restoration of the normal mucous membrane, normal capillary fill time, stronger pulses, improvement in mentation, and increase in urine production. Correction of hypokalemia is another important concern, and it can be done by supplementing potassium to intravenous fluid. This chart I have already shown earlier also. And this actually this is a scale you can say to determine how much potassium we need to add to the IV fluids to compensate for the losses. But other important thing is the rate of intravenous infusion of the potassium containing fluid shouldn't be more than 0.5 milliequivalents per kg per hour. And fluids, they are given only by the infusion. They're not given as boluses. Recommended, nothing per os is another. You can say no feed intake, no water intake is recommended for the animals with vomiting and diarrhea. This is also important concern. And early enteral nutrition is usually provided with esophageal or gastric feeding tubes. How to estimate the fluid in a patient? This is an example given. 5-month-old 20 kg dog is presented with a history of 4-day history of lethargy, anorexia, vomiting, and diarrhea with 8 to 10% signs of dehydration. First, for resuscitation, that is to maintain the hypovolemia, we have to give the multiple boluses of isotonic crystalline solutions at the dose rate of 20 to 30 ml per kg body weight. And the fluid rate is calculated. These 3 things have to be kept in mind. We have to restore the deficits, provide the maintenance needs, and to replace the ongoing losses, which is the form of vomiting and diarrhea over 24-hour period. How this replacement fluids, or these, it's also called as dehydration deficits, how they are calculated? They are calculated as body weight in kgs multiplied by percentage of dehydration. Dehydration was 10% in this case. Body weight is 20 kg. So 20 into 10%, it will give us 2 liters of fluid. And if we multiply it by 1000, it will give us 2000 ml of fluid. So this is the deficit requirement, which is 2 liters. Coming to the maintenance requirements. Maintenance requirements, normally they are considered to be 60 ml per kg per day for an average body weight dog. And if it is multiplied with the 20, that is 20 kg body weight, it comes out to be 1200 ml per day. So this is a per day requirement, and it comes out to be 1.2 liters per day. This is the maintenance requirement. What are the ongoing losses? Since animal is having vomiting and diarrhea, we should know how many times animal is vomited, how many times animal has passed stools, and what was the volume. This we have to ask the owner, or if it is an indoor patient, then we can calculate. Vomiting, if animal 10 times animal vomited per day with estimate volume of 50 ml, so total volume is 500 ml per day. In diarrhea, 6 times animal passed few stools per day with estimated volume of 100 ml, so total was 600 ml per day. Total ongoing losses were 500 plus 600 is equal to 1100 ml or 1.1 liters per day. So all the things we have calculated, the total fluid requirement in this patient per day is equal to replacement fluids, which was 2 liters, maintenance fluids 1.2 liters, ongoing losses 1.1 liter. Total is 4.3 liter of fluid has to be given per day in 24 hours. Or we can say 179 ml of fluid has to be given per hour. This is the way how to calculate the total fluid requirement in the patient with vomiting. Fluid therapy in renal failure. Primary goal of fluid therapy in the renal failure patient is rehydration. Most of the dogs with renal failure, they are dehydrated because of gastrointestinal loss along with their urine concentrating deficits. Any condition that decreases the renal blood flow that results in pre-renal azotemia, which can be hypovolemia, which can be because of dehydration, maybe because of hyperotonic hypotension, which can be because of anesthesia, which can be because of cardiomyopathies. So in patients with pre-renal azotemia, the kidneys are structurally and functionally normal, but they respond to the decreased renal blood flow by producing hypostheniuric urine. So urine concentration is increased. Specific gravity of urine is greater, that is it's greater than 1.030 in dogs in pre-renal azotemia. And we would talk about the fluid therapy plans for pre-renal azotemia, or it is renal azotemia is there. We know that dehydration, which is caused by the pre-renal azotemia, the only thing is replacement of volume deficit and restoration of renal perfusions. And once the renal perfusion is restored with the fluid therapy, animal is recovered. Whereas the renal azotemia is very difficult to be recovered only with the fluid therapy. Fluid therapy for the patients with pre-renal azotemia is always given by the intravenous route. Again, the fluid volume is calculated on the basis of percentage dehydration deficits, which I have already told. That is percentage dehydration to body weight. Maintenance fluid volumes. Again, the same rate is used, 60 ml per kg body weight per day. And continuing fluid losses, which can be in the form of vomiting, diarrhea, or urine. So mainstay of treatment in the acute renal failure is to correct the fluid and electrolyte imbalances, to improve renal hemodynamics, and to induce diuresis. Lactate dissolution is a choice of fluid for initial volume resuscitation as well as displacement of dehydration deficit. But once we give this for the long period of time, sometimes it leads to hyperkalemia. In those conditions, we can follow with a 0.9% saline. It contains no potassium, and it is suitable for initial choice for the patients with hyperkalemia. Once animal is rehydrated, maintenance fluids are given with a low sodium concentration. They are more suitable. For example, half-strength saline with a 2.5% dextrose is good. Half-strength lactated urine distillation, so 2.5% dextrose. These are the good maintenance fluids. Colloidal solutions like hydroxyethyl starch, 6% dextran, these are the synthetic colloids. They need to be administered if there is hypovolemic hypoalbuminemia, and they are administered at the rate I have already told you, 20 ml per up to 20 ml per kg per day can be given. In hypovolemic shock conditions, patients with renal failure with the signs of dull mentation, signs of hypotension when blood pressure goes down 80 mm of mercury, this is the systolic blood pressure, cold extremities, slow capillary fill time, hypothermia, and tachycardia. In all these conditions, immediate correction with crystalloids, a dose rate of 60 up to 90 ml per kg is recommended. Again, dehydration deficits, the same formula is used. Maintenance fluid, basically it is a combination of insensible and sensible losses. Insensible losses usually can't be measured. Usually it is estimated to be around 22 ml per kg per day. Sensible losses in the form of urine output. The maintenance fluid therapy is most commonly given at the rate of 60 up to 70 ml per kg per day can be given depending upon the age of the animal. Young animals, we can little bit increase the dose. Volume to be administered is equal to replacement of dehydration, that is dehydration deficit volumes, maintenance fluid volumes, the rate is 60 ml per kg per day, plus ongoing losses which can be estimated from the polyuria, vomiting, diarrhea, etc. This we have to calculate. In hyperkalemic patients, this is a concern in oliguric acute renal failure. Oliguric acute renal failure patients, they are at risk of developing hyperkalemia. For potassium concentration, if it is more than 6.5 to 7, we have to give the potassium-free fluids. In severe hyperkalemia, when level is more than 7 to 8 milligrams per liter, that results in the cardiac toxic effects. Cardiotoxic signs they are there. In those conditions, sodium carbonate, bicarbonate helps to correct metabolic acidosis and lowers the serum potassium concentration. We can give glucose. This is glucose and insulin. Usually it is a regular insulin given by the intravenous route, followed by glucose. And insulin is given at the dose rate of around 0.1 to 0.25 units per kg body weight by IV route, followed by the administration of bolus of glucose around 1 gram after every unit of insulin to be given. But the most important thing is to monitor for the glucose level. But many times animal usually have hypoglycemia which develops after administration of these things. The various indications which are to refer with whether the fluid volume is corrected. There's reduction in the blood urine nitrogen and phosphorus concentration. This is a good indication. Control of vomiting and diarrhea. And patient if showing interest in eating and drinking, means patient is recovering. But in patients with a chronic renal failure, polyuria and polydipsia occur as a result of decrease in the urine concentrating ability. The volume of the fluid required is again estimated by considering extent of dehydration, that is dehydration deficits, maintenance fluids, and continuing fluid losses, which can be in the form of polyuria now. Hyperphosphatemia, actually intravenously there is no fluid therapy specifically for phosphate to be administered by IV route. It is only the maintenance of hydration. What we can do, we can only give phosphate restricted diets and enteric phosphate binders. They can be given on only those patients in which vomiting is controlled. Fluid therapy in hypoproteinemic patients. Hypoproteinemia can be because of many conditions like protein-using enteropathies, malabsorption. There is hepatic failure is there, cardiac failure is your blood loss. The fluid of choice, no doubt, is the crystalloids along with the colloids has to be given. In this, colloids, hetastarch and dextrans, which I have already told you the consideration, 6% hetastarch, 10% dextrans. Hetastarch, and it will remain in the plasma volume, what will expand the intravascular volume for up to 48 hours. And dextrans, they are very short-lived, only for 1 to 2 hours. Dose rate is almost same, 20 ml per kg per day. Another human serum albumin, that is available again in 2 concentrations, that is 25% albumin and 5% albumin. 25% dose rate is 2 ml per kg. For 5%, the dose rate is 10 ml per kg is recommended for the patients with hypoproteinemia. Plasma is a good alternative in veterinary medicine. And plasma contains protein and as well as clotting factors. Dose rate of 6 up to 20 ml per kg is recommended for shock and hypoproteinemia. Fluid therapy in cardiac patients. Actually, the fluid administration in cardiac patient is very challenging. This balancing the fluid overload caused by the heart disease with the fluid need of the tissues, it is very difficult. In asymptomatic patients, especially asymptomatic means those in the cult form of disease, in which no clinical signs of heart failure are there, they are mostly normal volumic with no signs of heart failure. There's no coughing, no dyspnea, no ascites, no exercise intolerance, no lethargy is there, but only sign is murmurs and auscultation. Or when radiography or echocardiography of such patients are done, we can have the radiographic signs and echocardiographic regurgitation, etc. Objective of fluid therapy in these patients is to prevent the development of acute renal failure by maintaining adequate renal perfusion without causing any volume overload, as well as we have to always take care of pulmonary edema. Fluid therapy in hypovolemic patients with heart failure is a therapeutic challenge, as we have to replace the lost fluids without further aggravating congestive heart failure. And various indications in which fluid therapy is required in a patient with congestive heart failure include anorexia, dehydration, renal failure, hypotension, vomiting, and cardiogenic shock. However, for patients with significant cardiac enlargement, that is a overt form of disease in which all the signs of heart failure they are present, but animal is dehydrated, and we need to administer the fluids. In those conditions, we can give sodium restricted fluids. We can give 5% dextrose, or a combination of half strength saline with the 2.5% dextrose is good. Recommended dose rate is 6 ml per kg per hour in such patients. In condition of fluid overload, discontinue the fluid therapy and start therapy similar to that for the acute congestive heart failure. That is, we have to give the diuretics to such patient. Furosemide is one of the good choices. It is given at a dose rate of 1 to 5 milligram per kg IV. Every 1 to 2 hours we have to give until clinical improvement is there, until respiration rate is normal, until the various signs of fluid overload they are recovered. And in cases of respiratory distress, we need to give oxygen therapy. We have to consider that. This is all about the fluid therapy. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Though you have covered most of almost topics have been covered, but a few questions can be taken. shall I read from the question answer section?
Yeah. First question is, I think, what is that?
Most of it you have covered, madam, but still.
What is the one person has asked about what is the difference between this dehydration and
shock.
shock?
Treatment.
Actually, this actually dehydration, it is a loss of the extracellular fluid volume, extravascular fluid volume. And dehydration is a slow process. It is always manifested in the form of various clinical signs we can already know. And shock is a immediate loss of fluid from the body. First loss is always from the intravascular space, that is the hypovolemia. That leads to shock. So there is a difference between dehydration and shock in that way. Should I take the next question?
We will take selected questions, madam,
Okay.
because most of them you have covered.
Okay.
I will read for you. One has asked about the fluid therapy protocol in parvoviral enteritis.
This parvoviral enteritis, I think I've already covered, in which parvovirus only thing is for the hemorrhages. But other things, the loss of electrolytes we have to take care. There's loss of hydrogen ion, there's loss of chloride ions are there. So hyponatremia, sodium ions are lost in the vomitus, hyponatremia, hypochloremia. These are covered with the simple saline can be given. But since bicarbonate ions are also lost in the feces, we have to add in the fluids. So Ringer's lactate is a good choice for the start. But sometimes when we start giving Ringer's lactate, usually hyperkalemia occurs. So in those conditions, we have to administer those fluids which are don't have potassium. We can give in combination of the fluids, we can give you can say simple saline can be given, and in the maintenance we can give heart strength saline along with the dextrose 5%. That is a good choice.
Another question he has asked about the conditions necessary for amino acid infusion and dose.
Various conditions. These are the amino acid. Actually, these are different colloids. I think this is a good choice to be given if there is we want to treat the conditions like hypoalbuminemia. And synthetic among the natural colloids, you can say human serum albumin is good. And I think this is a better option than amino acids if we are giving. Amino acid, different preparations they are given, but the better way is either we should give human serum albumin or we can use the synthetic colloids.
Yes, another question that is how to identify potassium deficiency in animals clinically without blood test.
Potassium, usually whenever the hyperkalemia develops, usually it occurs in the renal failure. Hyperkalemia, whenever it develops, there will be signs of cardiac toxicity. There will be increase in the heart rate of the animal. For this, various only diagnostic tests we can go for the electrocardiography. With the electrocardiography, we can check the heart rate. Usually, bradycardia develops with hyperkalemia. There will be, if we check the Cureus complex, there will be widening. There will be loss of T wave. There is peaking of T wave. This is the one ECG. This is a very good monitoring. With the ECG, we can give a subjective measure of potassium levels. When speaking of T wave, complete absence of the P wave is a very good indicator when hyperkalemia has occurred, and levels can be more than around 7.5 millicoulombs per liter. So hyperkalemia is of more concern in the animals, which mostly occurs in cases of renal failure. But hypokalemia sign, usually muscle weakness is there, and there will be weakness in the animals will be there, likewise.
Another participant has asked about the reason for shivering while giving fluids in animals.
Usually, fluids, when they are given, what volume of the fluid we are giving, at what rate we are using, and at what temperature we are using. Usually, when fluids are given in the hypothermic patients or patients with the already they are in hypothermia, usually they are given at the room temperature, especially in the season we have to think of. Otherwise, shivering is not, you can say, this can be, if a lot of shivering is there, then we can do what we can do. We can either you can say lukewarm the fluid, or we can decrease the rate of the fluid administration. Especially in the young animal, it is problem of shivering. We can reduce the amount of fluid to be given. Especially in such cases, we should use the administration sets they are used, how much amount of blood is going. That is especially the adult set, usually we are having 60 drops per ml. And adults we're having 20 drops per ml. In the small pediatric patients, the shivering is a problem more in those patients, especially with hypothermia. In those, we can use a special administration sets they're available, which are giving 60 drops per ml. So amount of fluid which is administered, that can be slowed down, or we can a little lukewarm the fluid. And we should check the heart rate and pulse of such patients.
Okay, thank you, madam. I think most of the questions appear to be from the topics you have covered. So many topics you have covered. So we will send all the other questions to your mail address. So by that way, it can be answered. Because of shortage of time, we cannot take all the questions. So I thanks Dr. Neetu Saini madam for delivering such a wonderful presentation, giving the idea about the fluid therapy in the canine diseases. Madam has covered almost all the topics, right from the laboratory findings, symptoms, the various types of fluids, their composition, routes of administration, and all the various conditions which are commonly found in the dogs and which needs the fluid therapy. So once again, I thanks Dr. Neetu Saini madam for giving a wonderful presentation.
Thank you very much,
madam.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.